Welcome to WVTC TV Network, capturing family moments in real time, bringing families closer together from the comforts of home. We are unleashing something different to the world. Start your subscription today for the low price of $4.99 per month or $55 annually. Go to www.wvtctvnetwork.com to sign up today. WVTC TV Network is streaming live on 8 different platforms. You can easily download the WVTC TV Network app on the Apple Store, Play Store, Roku, Fire TV, and more. Here at WVTC TV, we have access to movies that everyone can enjoy, including independent films, Sons of a Preacher and a Good Thing, Treasures of Life, the epic drama, The Passion of the Christ, and the box office hit Madagascar Escape to Africa. Remember, go to www.wvtctvnetwork.com and sign up today.
Good evening. We are back. I am Edward Jones. This is
Latanya Jones.
And this is the Family First podcast. We're back one more week. I guess you allowed us to come back one more time with you today to talk about marriage, to talk about children, talk about family, and sometimes talk about nothing at all. And so we're so glad to have you back with us for another conversation on tonight. Last time we were together, last week, we've been through a whole lot of stuff over the last few weeks, and I think we finally made it through the big wave of events. So let's see what happened in January. January 9th was our Founders Day, my fraternity's Founders Day, the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. January 11th, 2 days later, was our 22nd wedding anniversary. Yeah. And then a few days after that, on January 16th, it was your Founders Day, 105 years of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And so we have gotten through that. We've gotten through all of that. And we were sitting down and we were talking out of all of these momentous events and all of that stuff and how we've made it through. We started to think about, how did we do it? How do we navigate some of those things? And especially in 22 years of marriage, they don't build marriages like they used to. You know, it used to be normal that you see people being married for 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 years. But I don't think they don't make marriages like that anymore. But we want them to make marriages like that. And that's why we're doing this podcast, because we want relationships. We want marriages to last like they do. So we were talking and we said, you know, one of the big things that helps us in our marriage, in our relationships, and that we want to share with others is dealing with conflict, because conflict happens in relationships. Conflicts happens in marriages. I don't remember the last time that we went a day without a conflict. I mean, whether it be, you know, I want, you know, pizza and you want Subway. I mean, that's a conflict.
Right.
You know, because we're two individual peoples, and part of being individuals is that you have your own mind, you have your own heart, and you have your own way. But how do you manage those conflicts? And so today, I want to talk about and let our audience listen in on how do we go about dealing with conflicts, from the small ones to the big ones. And I think one of the first things that I want to say is that it's okay to have conflict.
Absolutely.
Conflict is all right. Conflict is good, because conflict sharpens you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, conflict just lets you know there's a different perspective, there's a
Mm-hmm.
different way of doing things. We were having a conversation just not too long ago about agitation, and something has to rub you the wrong way. Something has to rub you in order to get out of you the things that need to come out of
Mm-hmm.
you. So tell me from where you're sitting and what you think about conflict, and if it's good, if it's healthy, what does conflict do? Before we get to the anxiety part
Mm-hmm.
of conflict, because conflict brings anxiety in all of us. But tell me what you think about conflict.
I think conflict is actually good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I must say that when I was younger, that I had a really bad idea, thought what conflict was, and that was just because of how I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So my idea back then, conflict was anytime you hear argument, there's fighting going on, somebody getting cussed out. So that's conflict. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want that.
Yeah, right.
So I would try to avoid
Right.
that
Yeah.
at all costs. But then as you grow up, you mature, you learn that conflict is actually not bad.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to encounter conflict in all kind of relationships. It doesn't matter what relationship that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're with your friends, your children, parents, your loved ones, whoever, you're going to run into conflict. It is going to happen. It's all about how you handle it,
Mm-hmm.
how you deal with it is what will keep you,
Yeah.
right? And so I've come to learn that conflict is it's not bad. I think it's just a matter in how we deal with it
Good.
that makes the difference.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And you said something that was very important, that sometimes we're afraid of conflict.
Oh yeah.
So we will avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
When there should be conflict. Well, I just want there to be peace. Yeah,
Right.
that's the language.
That's me. Now
Yeah.
I'm one of those, I'm a peacekeeper. That's
Uh-huh.
a part of my personality.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid conflict, I'm gonna do whatever I can to keep
the peace.
Keep the peace.
Yeah.
Because I don't want any conflict, because of course I was thinking that conflict is negative and it's bad. So I'm going to do whatever I can in my power to keep the peace, which means when I should be speaking up or saying something or communicating something, I'm being silent.
Good. Yeah. That's excellent.
Which is not
right.
Healthy.
It's,
but again, it goes to, you realize that when you have conflict, you can really bridge that gap in that relationship. You can actually come out stronger and closer.
Yes.
So it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing.
It's a great thing. And what you said is so true, because that's how you know you got somebody that got you and you got them, that you guys can tussle and you have your issue and then you work it out,
right? And
you're still together and you're stronger. They say sometimes that broken bones are stronger than bones that haven't been broken, because they've been broken, they've been fractured, been put together, and they mended back together. And relationships are the same way. Relationships that don't go through anything are flimsy. And if you say that you never go anything, you lying. You lying. You go through it. And if you haven't been through anything yet, you will go through.
Yeah, 22 years we are battle tested.
That's right. That's right. We've been through some stuff. And most of the stuff we go through is my fault. I'll put it on me. So
battle tested,
yes.
battle tested. But it's good. I think that is what has made us the friends that we are, the best friends that we are, because we have been through it in terms of having that conflict and how we deal with it, and it's made us closer as a result.
And that's so very true too, because just think about it. We are all right with conflict with our besties, with our friends, with our siblings. We'll argue and fight, but we don't want that with the person that we're scared of having that with someone we're in relationship with.
Absolutely.
And it's because I guess because we feel, my brother and my sister, they gonna be my brother and sister regardless. They can do nothing. My friends, we've been since we're kids. They're not going anywhere, and we've fought forever. I'm unsure if this person has the ability to handle the pressure of conflict between us. And
will you still love me if I don't agree with you?
Right.
Are we still gonna be cool if I don't agree with something that you're asking me? And that is a concern. Like I remember, and I said this, I think, in one of our first podcasts, how when we had our first conflict, I was so scared. I thought that we were about to get divorced. I said, oh my God, I remember crying. I was in tears. Lord have mercy, we about to get divorced because we disagreed about something.
Minor too.
And it was so minor. Look, 22 years ago, I can't even remember what it was, but it definitely was minor. But I was just so freaked out. I was so scared. But it was because just that learned behavior that I had, that, having conflict in a relationship is a bad thing. And if you have a conflict, then that means you guys aren't going to be good together. There's going to be issues.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn differently.
Yeah, conflict is not just not bad, but conflict is good. Conflict helps you grow. And I will say constructive or healthy conflict.
Right.
There's a difference between healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about, and so we're not going to spend all day going to the difference between healthy conflict and unhealthy. We're talking about healthy conflict on tonight. Healthy conflict is good. Healthy conflict stretches you. Healthy conflict, and what makes the conflict healthy, not necessarily the thing that we're having conflict about. It can be very serious, but how we go about handling it, that's what makes it healthy. If we are handling it in a proper way. So how are some of the ways that we handle our conflict that makes it healthy? You give me something, I'm gonna give you something, and then you give me something back.
I think well, we're good. We're good at talking to each other. So we're talking now.
Right.
But that's just something I think that's always been a part of us, is that we're communicators. We believe in talking to each other and communicating. That's huge. And so I think that's a huge.
I hear what she said. Talk to each other. Talk to each other.
Like you can't, because it is easy to get upset and to get angry.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm just gonna cut them off. I ain't talking to them. I ain't got nothing to say, and then be done with it. Well, nothing gets solved. Nothing happens, and the conflict does not disappear. It is still going to be there.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing. I have to tell you, because I can assume that you know how I am feeling and what's going on in my mind. I can't assume that. And I don't know why sometimes we do assume that the other person knows what we're feeling, but more than likely they do not.
Yeah. I'm not a mind reader. I can do a whole lot of stuff, but mind reading is not one of the things, not one of my gifts, not one of my skills. And you said something very important too, that if you don't deal with it and you kind of try to push it aside, it's going to come back because you haven't dealt with it.
Oh yeah.
And it'll come up at the most inopportune time. And so
especially women, because we hold on to stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so we gonna bring up the last thing that you did, and the thing before that you did, and the thing before that you did that we did not talk to you about, that we feel like you should have known and you didn't say anything, but we didn't say anything. Right. So that doesn't make sense.
But it happens.
But we do that.
But we do. And it's that dance.
Right.
It's that dance that we do.
Right.
So communicating, and let me add on to the communication piece by a phrase that I learned a long time ago that I try to practice, not just with you, but it's in all of my relationships, whether it be in ministry where I'm working with people, my staff or anything like that. But it's a phrase that says, speak to not offend, listen and do not defend. And so, because a lot of times when we speak, we're speaking to get our thing out, and we don't care who we hurt when we say it.
Right.
I got to get it out.
Right.
And it's not beneficial. It's not healthy when you're letting all this out on your loved one. You're just getting it out, and you don't care how the other person feels. But if you're speaking with a way, you're communicating because you want conflict resolution, you want this issue dealt with, then you're not going to speak in a way that is going to offend the listener. So we try not to make you statements. You always do this, or and then so because of that, the person, because the first thing that happens when you point at you, the person on the other end of that finger begins to defend themselves. And so, and the other piece of that is to listen and not defend, meaning that when I hear, I'm not waiting for my time to talk. I'm actually processing what you're saying, because sometimes when we have conflict, we have conversations. The one person you're thinking, you're not even listening to what the person is saying. You're waiting to come back what they're saying, and you're just waiting for them to take a breath so you can start your talk.
Yeah.
And so when you're listening to and not defending, you're allowing that person the space to feel what they feel. You validate what they're feeling, even though you might disagree with it, but you're validating what they feel. I'm not going to defend myself. That's what you feel.
Right.
But we come back later and say, well, how you feel is your feeling, but let's come back with the fact of the matter.
Right.
Let me say, in conversations and in relationships, men want to deal with facts. Women want to deal with feelings. Yes. And so if you get that out the way, if you understand that, you will get so far in your conversations. You'll get so far in your conflicts with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your spouse, your significant other. You will learn that, because the first thing we were just talking about this earlier. This just happened earlier. He said, "You always da 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 da," and immediately I'm thinking about the times that I didn't da 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 da. So that is a non-factual statement. I do not always.
Right.
But I had to say, wait a second. But what she's doing is she's expressing her feelings.
Right. Right.
And so, but if I was not listening to not defend myself, and the next words that came out of my mouth said, well, you're wrong. Because I don't. Because you said this, and this is the time that I didn't, and this is the time that I didn't, this is the time. And now,
that's how them arguments start.
And that's how it keeps going.
Yep. That's how those arguments, but you said something that too, do we want a conflict resolution? Do we want that? Sometimes, because we are in the heat of the moment, we are angry, we are upset, and so we want to express how angry we are. We ain't thinking about a conflict, a resolution. We just want to get out how we feel. So, and I will say, in most cases with women, it's like we want you to feel, we want you to understand what we are feeling and what's going on with us, and what we're thinking, and how hurt we are or how angry we are. And so we want to deal with that first. And so that's where the man has to be able to understand, again, as men and women, we have different communication styles. And so, as you were saying, being able to take a moment and listen to be able to hear behind what's being
decipher,
what's being said. But sometimes too, and I've actually gotten pretty good at this over the years. Instead of coming and saying you did, I can be able to say, you did that, it made
Make
me
me
feel
Yeah.
a certain way.
Right.
And or when you said this, it,
Yeah.
it did hurt my feelings, and it made me feel upset, or it made me feel angry. And so sometimes you can't come and say that.
But that helps, because what it
Yes.
does, it says this is the actual event that happened.
Yes.
So that's the fact for the male.
Yeah.
And then, but this is how it made me feel.
Right.
And so now I can say, okay, this is the fact. Okay, yes, that did happen. It's not all the time. No,
Right.
at this particular thing, this is what you did.
Right.
And I can say, okay, I did that.
Right.
And now this is the feeling that is associated, or what I made you feel with that. Okay, now I can go, okay, need to make some corrective actions. Now I'm sorry for making you feel that way.
Right.
And so, and sometimes that's all you want.
Yep. All the time.
You know, that's all, brothers. Sometimes that's all they want,
Yes.
is for you to say,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I hear how you feel. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And let me tell you another secret. I'm gonna pretend that she's not here because she's not listening. When you do it quick, it takes all the venom out of her fangs, and she can't do nothing. she been ready to fight. She done made it up in her mind.
Yes.
She done worked it out. It's gonna be a 10-round fight. First 2 rounds, I'm gonna come out slow, and then I'm gonna ramp it up, and then I'm gonna knock him out in the 10th round. When you say early, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for making you feel this way. You
took all the gas out.
You take. Let me tell you something. Fire needs oxygen to burn.
It sure does.
When you do things and you communicate and you listen and you do things, like I said, apologize to one another, you take the oxygen out of the fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my wife learned about me early in our relationship, because I don't argue, I don't fight. And I figure out, and I take the oxygen out of the fire.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's why we've been able to be around between 2 years too, because I take the oxygen.
Oh yeah.
out.
Just to tell a quick story that I remember. I think we had only been married for maybe a year, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember this is after I was pregnant with Jasmine.
Okay.
And so I remember, and I again don't remember what the conflict or what the issue was, but I was just angry, and I wanted to argue. Like, I wanted to argue. And so you're just listening to me on the phone, and you're just as calm as a cucumber, and you just yes, and my voice is just elevating, because I'm like, why is he not
engaging? Yeah,
responding
mm-hmm.
and matching? The pitch of my
don't
voice.
Match energy. Yeah, don't. They say matching energy. No, don't match energy.
So I'm getting madder, and so I'll never forget, once I finished just kind of like letting out how I was feeling and why I was angry. Probably was hormones at the time, but anyway, when I let it out, I remember you said, "Okay, you finished now. You all right?" Mm-hmm. and I remember, like, this man did not want to argue with me. This is something, But I think, and we were able to laugh at it afterwards. Mm-hmm. But I think the blessing for me was just realizing that I can have a disagreement, I can have an argument with you, and it doesn't have to be name calling or getting loud or cussing or anything like that. It doesn't have to be anything like that. We can argue and disagree and still have respect for each other, still have love for each other, and laugh about it, 5 minutes afterwards.
Well, first of all, because I'm too fine. You got to look at me. I'm too fine for you not to be, you can't stay mad at me anyway. But the other piece of this, and is something that I hypothesize, and maybe I'll write a book on it one day, in dealing with conflict between men and women. Men and women are taught differently when we're young. Boys, when they're young, when we're young, we're taught how to fight. We're taught by our dads, our uncles, whoever, big brothers or whatever, to fight. And we learn rules to fighting. Hey, when he's down, don't kick him. When you fight, there are certain places you don't kick. There are certain places you don't punch. There are certain things that you don't do in a fight. You fight fair. All right. And then when the fight is over, you shake hands. The best man won. And for a lot of young men, our closest friends are people that we had fights with when we were younger because we knew those rules. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Women aren't taught how to fight as children. They're taught with the Barbie. They have the Barbie dolls. They have all this stuff, all this other stuff. They're supposed to be nice and whatnot. So when conflict comes, when they do fight, they don't know the rules. So every fight to a woman is to the death. They claw each other. The worst fights you ever see on social media or anything, or people getting hit with different types of things, it's women. Why? Because they're never taught the rules of engagement. And then when you get a man and a woman together in a relationship, they argue. Men know rules to fighting. We know rules to engagement. So we're not going to hit below the belt. We're not going to do certain things. But women go for the jugular. Women will say anything. Women will do anything. Why? Because they've never been taught the rules of engagement. And that's why there's so much conflict in our relationships between men and women. And so one of the things that we want to do here, that we want to help teach women the rules of engagement. So that we can have conflict and we're not going for the jugular. We can have disagreements and it's not going to be a knockdown, drag out fight. Okay. So that's just my postulation. That's just my hypothesis. I think there's something to it though. So we communicate with each other. We listen to one another. I think something else that we do that helps us in our conflict. We kind of talked about it earlier. Is that we don't take each other too seriously. We don't take ourselves too seriously. So you could be mad at me, and you could be legitimately mad at me. I'm gonna look at you and make you laugh.
Yeah. Laughter's good.
Laughter's good.
Yeah.
I can be mad.
Yeah.
And you know that I'm mad. And what you gonna do? Come here, come give me a hug, come give me a kiss. And don't you touch me. You know you messed up. Don't be coming trying to hug me, and you know
right.
But we know that we love each other. We're not gonna be mad at each other for long. Yes, there's some underlying stuff that we need to take care of, but we cannot be too serious. You're not my enemy.
Right. That's it.
You're not my adversary.
That's it.
You are my partner for life. And so even teammates getting disgruntled, but we on the same team.
That's right.
So why would I stay angry and be bitter with somebody that's on my team?
That's it. And I think I was gonna say something very similar to that. When we talked about just conflict and wanting to solve the conflict, because it's like once you get past the initial feelings of hurt or anger or whatever they are, then it says, okay, I want to solve this conflict, because you shouldn't want to be in the same household with someone and have continued conflict. You shouldn't want that. At some point it's okay. And especially with us, we don't let it go, not even a day, let alone whatever it is, we gonna deal with it right then and there. And then, okay, then we gonna move on.
Right.
And I think that's just something that we've learned to do, over the years, because again, I remember I'm peacekeeper, right? I'm gonna do whatever I can to have peace. So that means I'm not gonna say anything.
That's the wrong.
And that's the wrong
and it
thing.
boils up and
because
boils over.
then it boils up and then you might not even do anything.
I left the toilet
you
seat
left
up,
the
y'all.
toilet seat up, or you left the sock on the floor after I just cleaned up, and then I'm about to blow up, and it really has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It's just all the other stuff that I've never dealt with.
Right.
And so wanting to solve that conflict and wanting to, okay, let's get back, let's figure this out. That's important.
Yeah.
That's huge. And it's remembering, hey, like we in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
We made a choice.
Yeah. Right.
You make a choice every day.
She ain't going nowhere, y'all.
We made a choice.
She get tired of me. She need to go take a nap.
Right.
She not going nowhere.
But it's a decision. It's a choice that you have to make every day.
Yeah.
And so because we make that choice, we make that decision every single day. That means there's going to be something that we don't agree on, that we have to learn how to be able to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just a given. I remember when we first got married, you are the avid sports person. And I'm like, man, I am not going to get a chance to see my soap operas, my stories. So I need to figure this out. So instead of arguing and fighting with you over watching ESPN and the Word Network.
Right. That was it. Back in the day, them was my two channels.
ESPN
the Word and the Word Network. That's it.
The Lord blessed me to be able to get my own television. And so that kind of helped with, ending a lot of conflict on who was going to be able to watch TV. Yeah. You find ways. It's a decision. It's a choice.
Yeah.
That you have to make every single day.
I agree with you. And with that, and part of that too is another thing that what stays in my mind in the midst of conflict is knowing that we have children that are watching us.
Absolutely.
And how we deal with conflict will be how they deal with conflict.
Absolutely.
Because what they see in us is their norm. So if we're arguing, cussing, and fighting, that will be their norm in their relationships. And I don't know, better not cuss, argue, and yell at my daughters or my sons.
Right.
So we set the example. So I have to be mindful. Oh, kids are watching.
Absolutely.
The kids are listening. Even if you don't think that they're listening, they're listening. And so we have to, we got to deal with this quick. We got to figure this out. And it's because we're not the Huxtables. We are not the Winslows, or none of the TV families. Even though I call you Weezy sometimes, we're not the Jeffersons.
No, we deal with real stuff.
Yeah. It's not no TV show here. Even though we thank you for being here for our podcast.
Absolutely.
But it's so real, and I think it's valuable that we're sharing this stuff because our children are watching. They're dealing with conflict because they have to deal with conflict. You hear every day, Jasmine calls you just about every day and something that she's dealing with. Joshua calls me every day from college, from Hampton University. One of my twins is a Hampton Pirate. And we hear it all the time. The conflict, how do I deal with this? Or I see how you operate. I see what you do. I see what you don't. I see that it's not going to be beneficial to deal with things this way. And so I think that we need to be mindful for nothing else. That's a great question. It says, what do you do if both of you have different teaching methods while raising your kids? That's a great question.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because we do it not by our method. We do it by the kid.
Yeah.
What does the kid need?
Absolutely.
And because we have five children. We have a 21-year-old daughter that is a junior in college. We have 19-year-old twin boys that are freshmen in college. One is at Hampton. One is at Tennessee State University. He's taking a semester off because he's in boot camp, basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Jonathan, I'm praying for you. And then we have our 12-year-old twin girls. So 2 sets of twins. the twins, they're twins, but they're different.
Yeah. Totally different
So out of all 5 of our children, we have to figure out, sometimes her way is the way. Talk to them nice, encourage them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's my way. Put the fear of God in them.
Mm-hmm.
You see that you got a twin. I will kill you and make another one that look just like you. All my kids look alike.
I didn't mean that exactly.
I didn't mean it. I'm just saying. I'm just using figurative. There's figurative speech in the Bible.
Right.
But I'll make another one just like you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they need that healthy fear. Sometimes it is punishment. Sometimes it's, and the funny thing, I think more times than not, I'm the good cop. I think more times than not.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that because they do not want to see me as the bad cop. They do not.
Mm-hmm.
So you listen to her first, and you do it because you do not want me to have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I deal with it, it gets dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of our relationship. And
yeah.
and they've taught, you've taught them, hey, you better listen to me, because if I have to tell your father, and you've raised our children to respect me as the father and say that's
mm-hmm.
whatever he say
mm-hmm.
is that.
But also, I think too, just in answering a question, just in terms of teaching, because we do have totally different
mm-hmm.
backgrounds,
mm-hmm.
and when you become a parent and you're raising your children, you can't help. You're going to do what you saw your parents do.
You're going to revert.
You just can't help it.
Yeah.
So if your parent was the type of parent that talked to you all the time, you're gonna end up doing that.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the type of parent that yelled a lot and fussed you out, yep, you're gonna
get that.
You're gonna do that. And so
until you retrain yourself.
And so we I know early on had conversation just in talking
talked about that beforehand. Yeah.
Parenting children, what that looked like for us, what does discipline look like for us? What are some non-negotiables, for our children as they're growing up? Because especially now, I'm telling you, like when we went through the teenage phase, Lord have mercy. We had 3 teenagers in the house at the same time. And we made it by the grace of God. But it was, we got 2 left. Lord, that was something. But it was a lot of communication, a lot of talking, a lot of prayer, but a lot of talking amongst each other. What do we think about this?
Mm-hmm.
If there was a situation that came up with a kid, well, okay,
let's huddle.
We come together, we meet up. And then if it comes out that he has to go have the conversation and talk, then he'll go and he'll do that. If it turns out that I need to be the one to come, and he'll say, well, you'll go ahead on and you handle this one. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. So it's a lot of teamwork.
Collaboration.
A lot of collaboration. It's never a situation where, we're functioning by ourselves on our own, parenting our kids.
And the thing, once again, we're on the same side.
Right.
And so it's not, no, I got to do it my way. No, I got to do it my way. No, I got to do it my way. No, we need to do it whatever it needs for the child. We're on the same team.
Right.
So that is whatever, we're adaptable. Sometimes I think, sometimes I think that you're a clinician
mm-hmm.
by education. So sometimes I think, man, you done read that in some type of psychology book, some Maslow or Adler or somebody done taught you that. No, this don't work for Black kids. we need something else. Yeah. But we combine, we listen to each other,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps us. We don't normally. I think we're pretty much on the same page when we're dealing with our children, um, um, with discipline or
Mm-hmm.
teaching them anything. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I'm trying to think of some times that we've butted heads. Uh, uh, yeah,
Oh.
yeah, we did have that time. Uh, uh, but that's I think more of that was me being a dad and not wanting to see my daughter with a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And we butted heads. But dads and moms are gonna butt heads on that.
Yeah. Baby girl's growing up.
Yeah, but
Gotta
no,
understand
but
that.
that's always my baby. And but she has a nice young man now. And if he's watching, you know who you are, Nathaniel. I'm gonna say you by name because if it's somebody else, uh, so and I'm expecting my phone call on tomorrow morning, like always. And so, but we have these things that we
Mhm.
do as a family that make sure that we're dealing with the conflicts, that making sure that we're on the same page, making sure that we're hearing one another, that we're understanding what the other person is saying.
Mhm.
And the best way to deal with conflict is to try not to get in trouble to begin with.
Mhm.
So the best way to resolve conflict is to avoid it in terms of not doing what you need. Don't make the same mistake twice.
That's it. Learn from it.
Learn.
Mhm.
And I try not to make the same mistake. I'm not always successful, but I try
Mhm.
not to make the same mistake twice. And so,
But again, stuff happens.
yeah,
We're human,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
We're not perfect.
yeah.
We gonna make mistakes. You gonna always leave your socks on the floor. You're not gonna.
We're 22 years in. Hey, them socks gonna
Hey,
be there. We're
these
22.
these are things that I know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so you gotta pick your battles.
yeah.
You can't argue and fight about
World
everything.
War III over everything.
Some things you just have to, hey, it is what it is. There's no sense to picking a fight, being mad and arguing about.
Mhm.
Um, just some things, again, you just have to pick your battles. Is it worth having, this big argument or
Mhm.
war about? Is it really worth it?
Right.
In most cases, it's not.
It's not. And let me say that a lot of times there's conflict in general. I'm not talking about necessarily with us, but in general, people have conflict and people lash out on others because there's some stuff going on the inside of
Mhm.
them. They're unsettled in themselves, and it causes them to lash out and have conflict with others. People that are always mean and always combative with you and always they got stuff going on the inside of them that they haven't worked out. So it's hard to be in a good relationship with someone else in a conflict free, a negative conflict free relationship if you still got stuff going on the inside of
Yeah,
you.
you got to
So
deal with that
so
stuff.
you got to do the work and work that stuff out on the inside of yourselves. Uh, another thing, and I think this is so very very important in dealing with with our conflict is knowing that uh, tomorrow is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tomorrow's a new day.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked about it, a little bit resolving it, but when it's resolved.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we don't hear
We're not
again.
bringing it up
We're not
anymore.
bringing it up again. We're not hearing.
Remember what you
Yeah,
did
in 1928.
19.
Uh, you know,
Shame on you.
yeah. That no, and so we deal with it and it's dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, um, that's part of that learning how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and each and I will I will submit to each of you that you with your spouse, your significant other, whatever, you all create your own rules of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
What is allowed, what is not allowed
Mm-hmm.
in your interaction, in your disagreements, in your conflict. What is allowed, what is not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, I don't know if we've necessarily said them out loud. We've been together so long because we kind of know the rules. Uh, One of my rules, and when we have conflict, my voice will never raise above what it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of my rules. You know,
We don't raise voices.
yeah, we don't raise voices. I'm not going to yell at you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can tell you how angry I am, how upset I am, how disappointed I am, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and not raise my voice
Mm-hmm.
because you're not a child.
Mm-hmm.
Now I raise my voice at my kids all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but this is my partner, this is my rib, this is my side. Okay, I'll yell at myself before I yell at her. Uh, Besides, you're too fine to be for me to be yelling at. And Lord have mercy. You made me lose my train of thought. I was looking in your eyes, and I said, "Oh, Jesus!" But that is part. You know, we don't bring it back up. We let we deal with it. Tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah.
And also believing and understanding that we have to. And sometimes, watch this. Sometimes in conflict, it's not about being right.
Yeah.
It's not about being right.
Yeah.
You can be right and lose a relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can be right and lose. What's more valuable?
Yeah.
Being right or the relationship?
That's it.
And so I'm not going to fight with you tooth and nail to prove that I'm right.
Right.
Being right isn't that important.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationship is what is important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are things, and with that, I have to learn. We've talked about this before on our podcast that we have to issue one another grace.
Yeah.
We want to be the recipients of grace, but we don't want to extend it.
Mm-hmm.
In conflicts, we're going to be. You know what? You hurt me. I'm upset. But you know what? I'm gonna issue you grace because I know deep down inside you really don't want to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you didn't do it intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's intentional, it's a whole nother story. But you need more than our podcast if you're doing stuff intentionally to hurt one another. you need more than our. We've got some clinicians. I got some on speed dial that I can hook you up with.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not doing things on purpose to harm each other. And because of that, I know you have the best intentions. There's grace.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I need grace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I mess up a lot. So I'm not going to hold it against you, you know, because we need it. We're human and we're going to mess up as hard as we try, we're going to mess up.
That's it.
You know, something else that we haven't talked about a lot, but the role that our relationship with God plays in our conflict. Because sometimes God is the one that deals with the conflict. I don't deal with it. You don't deal with it. God deals with it. And because you've told me quite a few times that God has had to deal with you on stuff. And you know, same way.
Oh yeah. Just when I'm like, I'm mad. I'm not gonna say nothing. And he'll yank my collar real quick. And so I have to come to you. And I real quick, I just had a thought and remember the situation that we had a couple of year ago. I mean, you were talking to me about a situation, and I wasn't fussing at you, but I'm like fussing about the situation because I'm mad
at the situation.
I'm mad at the situation. I'm mad that you're going through this. And so I'm on the phone and I'm going in. And I remember you saying like, I don't need this right now, And so initially I felt some kind of way because I'm like, what? Like, I'm defending you.
Right.
Right. Like I'm defending you. And so because you shouldn't be going through this and I'm expressing how I feel. But when I got off that phone and I had to sit and I take a moment and, it's like God replayed that whole conversation back and I heard myself. And so, God told me I had to come back to you, talk to you and apologize. And I did. I came back and I said, you know what? I apologize. I'm so sorry. Because in that moment, you needed a listening ear. You didn't need me to be going off. You need a listening ear.
Because you're from Oakland. Oakland.
Right. But I remember that. And so I think that things like that is important sometimes to take some self-reflection and to think about, could I have said this better or could I have handled that better? And then when you realize that, I could have did that better. I could have said that better. I could have handled that situation better. Then it quickly come back. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I could have did better.
And I think one of the biggest things, and I think that's a great place for us to put a pin in this conversation is that apologizing to one another, thinking, knowing and understanding that we're on the same side. And more important, we love each other. If you love one another, find your way through it. It's all right. Every conflict does not have to end in a war. So many more relationships would be better off if we just took a moment to just breathe and say, hey, this is with somebody I actually care about. This is someone I actually love, I want to be with. And when we do that, we'll have more functional relationships. Because once again, healthy conflict is good.
Yeah.
Healthy conflict,
Good.
It will grow you. It will sharpen you. It will make you a better man. It will make you a better woman. It will. You'll be better for it.
Yeah.
So that's where we put a pin in it.
Put a pin in it.
All right. Well, once again, I am Edward Jones, and this is
LaTanya Jones.
And this is the Phamily Phrst podcast. And we'll see you again on next week.
See you next week.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, and iNetworks Communication Station.